Hey yo, what up gamers? Today I'm going to be talking about something that I love, and that is Firewatch, a game that came out in 2016. You've probably heard of it, but if not, then I cannot recommend enough for you to go and play this game. It is one of my favourites. And if you're still like, I don't know, I don't really want to play it, well get this, it's only 4 hours long. Unless you're like me who beat it in 3 hours, count them 1, 2, 3, that's freaking speedrun, 100%, no glitch, 4 Hunters, Dreams, DreamWorks, Madagascar, Alex the Lion, Ben Stiller.
But seriously, I love this game, and when I finished it for the 4th time the other week, I had an even bigger appreciation for it. And I mean, yeah, sure, the killer voice acting and stunning ass art direction, shout out Ollie Moss, still amazes me. I was blown away even more by the story, more specifically its themes, and even more specifically, what it all means.
The game starts by telling us Henry's story of how he met his wife, which is intercut with the first bit of gameplay as you control Henry getting into his truck. The story goes on and gets continually interrupted by Henry's venture deeper and deeper into the forest.
On the surface, Firewatch is a story about Henry, a fire lookout who is uncovering the mystery of who is stalking him and Delilah, another fire lookout in the Shoshone National Forest. But when looking deeper into it, I started to see a pattern in the characters, and that's when I realised that Firewatch is also a game about running away from your problems.
And like I said, as the story is unfolding, we control Henry getting deeper and deeper into the wood. This shows him trying to run away from his problems, and to symbolise this, the game devs throw in this interaction with this elk, which shows the animal running away, and keep that elk in mind because he comes back later. After finally getting to your Firewatch tower, we see our first interaction with Delilah.
Hello, Two Forks Tower. So, what's wrong with you?
Did you hear that? Literally one of the first things that Delilah asks after meeting Henry is, "What's wrong with you?" This catches Henry off guard and shows that even when trying to run away from your problems, they won't go away. Henry doesn't answer and instead tries to ask Delilah the same thing. However, she too dodges the question, showing us that Delilah is here because she also is running away from problems back home.
So, what's wrong with you?
Excuse me?
People take this job to get away from something. So, what's wrong?
What's wrong with you?
Throughout the game, you as the player are faced with the choice of whether or not to tell Delilah about your wife Julia, and whether you choose to be completely open or try to keep it a secret. No matter what you do, the truth comes out eventually, and Delilah finds out about Julia. This shows us that Henry can't get away from his problems. He can't ignore them no matter how hard he or you as the player tries. So Firewatch's message isn't only seen through the character of Henry, but we can also see this in all of the characters. Let's take a look at Ned Goodwin,
The father of Brian Goodwin. Now this character used to be a fire lookout, just like Henry and Delilah, and just like them, took the job to get away from his problems. More specifically, the likely fact that he has PTSD from his time in the war, as well as the struggle of being the father of Brian Goodwin. And if you haven't played the game and you're thinking, oh, maybe I will, then please just stop the video right here and go play it. It's like 4 hours long. Trust me, you'll have fun. I'm about to spoil it.
At the end of the game, we come to discover that Ned Goodwin was the one terrorising Henry and Delilah, and has been living in the forest after the climbing accident that caused his son's death. Here we can see that instead of facing his problems, he decided to run away and hide in the forest. In the tape that he leaves for Henry, he explains how he's going to go even deeper into the Shoshone.
Oh, and speaking of Shoshone, the music in this game is great. I mean, I can listen to the soundtrack on repeat. Sure, it's not funkin', bunkin', donkey, crunkin' like some of my other favourite video game OSTs are, but it is just beautifully crafted. Just take a listen. Oh no, what's that noise?
Where the birds and the bees won't know me.
But yeah, at the end of the OST, we're hit with this really weird country song called Old Shoshone. And I didn't know this for a while, but it's actually a cassette that you can find in-game.
You know, at first I thought it was kinda goofy, but then it started to get stuck in my head and it kinda grew on me. But when you actually pay attention to the lyrics, it fits in with the message of running away from your problems. The song depicts a man planning to escape from his life and live in the Shoshone National Forest, to run away from his problems and go to a place where there are none.
And you could say this reflects the character of Ned Goodwin, as he, like I said, runs away into the old Shoshone National Forest. But I actually think it reflects every character and the game's message on a whole. Okay, just hear me out on this next part, because I'm gonna start sounding like that annoying English teacher that overanalyzes everything. But I think that each line in the chorus of the song actually relates to each of the characters. And again, a bit of a stretch, but just listen.
Okay, so the first line is, I'm heading off to Old Shoshone.
I'm headed off to Old Shoshone.
Of course, this is the national park the game takes place in, and is where the characters go to get away from the problems. Now the next line, where the birds and the bees don't know me.
Where the birds and the bees won't know me.
It sounds kind of stupid, but this could be referring to Delilah in a breakup with her ex, because you know, birds and the bees, I don't know, that was kind of a stretch. Okay, so the next line is, where men and war won't exist no more.
Men and war won't exist no more.
And I think this could be referring to Ned Goodwin, who was in the war before becoming a fire lookout. Most likely the Vietnam War due to the time, I don't know though, it doesn't really say. And finally the line, and there ain't no gals to keep no score.
And there ain't no gals to keep no score.
And even I don't think this makes much sense, but that could be referring to Julia, you know, Henry's wife. I don't know, that was kind of a stretch, but who cares? It's content.
As you all probably guessed by now, Delilah's character also has problems that she's trying to run away from. That being, like I said, her breakup with her ex Javier. But also we see how she constantly tries to avoid facing her problems, such as not reporting the girls at the lake because she wanted to avoid paperwork, and also not reporting Brian Goodwin, although that isn't really running away from the problems, that's just like a thing, I don't know. Now, this whole time I've been explaining how Firewatch is about running away from your problems, but the real message we learn at the end of the game is not to run away from your problems, because they'll always be there no matter how hard you try to hide from them, and the only way to sort them out is to face them. And to show this, I want to call back to that elk that we saw at the beginning of the game, because later in the game you find him dead, symbolizing that running away will never end well. Oh, I mean, I don't know, it could just be like a different elk.
Many players complain that the choices that you make in the game don't change anything, because the ending's always the same. But what some people don't realise is that you do have a choice.
In the very last moments of the game, you choose whether or not you want to leave the park so Henry can go home and face his problems. Or, not many people know this, but you can actually stay in the Shoshone and let the helicopter leave without you, and just like Ned Goodwin, escape from life and live in the forest.
However, most people will go on the helicopter and the game will end the same, which adds to the message, as it shows that trying to get away from your troubles will always end with you having to face them eventually.
And I feel that Firewatch is summed up best by Delilah's line to Henry in the closing scene.
Henry, Look, you came out to put your memories behind you, and they're still right there in front of you.
And if there's one thing I want you to take away from this video, is to stop worrying about things in life that bring you down and just face your problems. Whether you're procrastinating from studying from a test or just putting off doing your laundry this week, just get it over with, because at the end of the day we're going to have to deal with it sometime.
And if you have a problem that you can't do anything about, don't worry or stress, because whatever happens is gonna happen, and there's no point wasting time being sad. Anyway, I've been me, you've been you. Subscribe. If you want, you don't have to.
I'm headed off to Old Shoshone, where the birds and the bees won't know me. Man and war won't exist no more.